Hey, Jungle Explorer here, and boy, guys, what you see before you is basically my baby. This is my go-to rifle. I have owned this rifle for almost 30 years. I've killed well over 100 deer with it. It's a nail driver at 100 yards. Can put 3 bullets in a hole so small you can't tell that there were 3 bullets shot there. This is the Savage Model 110 243. Bought it in 1990 in Kmart off the shelf. It originally came with a Simmons 3x9 scope on it, which was a total piece of junk, but I did actually manage to kill a couple of deer with it before it actually the glass came loose in it. And then I replaced that with a 4x12 by 44 Bushnell Sports View scope that I bought out of the Sportsman's Guide, guys. For those who remember that wonderful magazine back in the 90s where we got all our cool stuff out of, the Sportsman's Guide magazine. Every guy back then had that magazine, and we just, you know, that was our catalog that we looked through and drooled over the neat stuff that was in it, and everything. So anyways, I put that Bushnell Sports View scope on there, and that thing lasted from about 1991 all the way to 2016. And it finally gave up the ghost after lots of rounds. Man, that was a tough little scope. I really got my money's worth out of it. Only paid $99 for it. And man, it was just a great little scope. So today I'm going to be putting a new scope on here and sighting it in for you. And this baby's been resting for a couple of years, and she's hankering to take a deer out. So I'm going to put a new scope on her now. I picked up this nice Vortex Crossfire 2 scope. It's another 4x12 by 44 with the dead hole bullet drop compensator. That's going to be a nice addition to it because the old Sports View didn't have that. It's a pretty good scope, and heard a lot of good things about it, so I'm going to put it on here. I'm going to be using the UTG AccuShot 1-inch scope rings. These are really good scope rings. I believe in putting the best scope rings on there, but also not, you know, paying a fortune for, you know, things that don't really do any better. This one has thousands of positive reviews on it. Lots of people use them, so these are really good scope rings. And let's go ahead and start getting this thing mounted here. Got a little wind today, so I'm sighted in at 30 yards. Because of the wind, I'll have to wait for a calmer day to sight in at a distance. And when I say calmer day, that means a day that that's 1 out of every 30 days it is calm where I live. It is not the wind is a big problem where I live. You just gotta pick and choose those right times. And I like, when I'm putting scope mounts on, this uses a 12mm socket. I'm gonna tighten this baby up because as I said, I don't take these things off. They stay on for a very long time, and so I don't put them on lightly, and I just don't like things coming off. All right, now UTG provides this little Allen wrench here. The wind's trying to blow all my stuff off my table here, but we'll go ahead and take these screws out. All right, let's take this scope out here, see what it looks like. Okay, let's drop this on here. Okay, so I'm gonna have to switch gears here because this Vortex Crossfire 2 is too short. You can see that it's all the way back up against the rear mounting ring here, and it's about a ½ inch too short. So the tube on it needs to be a little bit longer, so it's not going to fit on this older model Savage 110 because there's no way to move the mounts closer. And so I'm going to change it out and put a different scope on it. I guess this old model 110 Savage just prefers Bushnells, so I guess Bushnell is what it's going to take to get back on here. This one's going to fit on here, and this is a Bushnell It also is a 4x12 by 44 with a adjustable objective over here. And it came on a different rifle that I bought, a 6.5 Creedmoor, and I wanted to put a little bit better scope on that for long range. I seldom shoot this rifle past 150 yards, even though I have shot it up to 300 yards, so I don't really need the extra complexity on there. So I'm going to put this scope on there. It'll be fine for it. It's had a Bushnell on it for 25 years and did fine, so this here should take care of it, and it's a nice little scope. So it fits. We'll just go ahead and mount it, and we'll just put our tops on here and get ready to sight her in. The important thing when tightening these top screws down here is that you make sure that you are really even on both sides. A little gap here needs to be even on both sides, and you don't tighten one screw down too much. You just tighten each one in sequence a little by little until you get it tight enough. Because if you tighten them out of sequence and you tighten them too much on one, you're going to deform your scope tube, and that can cause problems with your scope. So take your time when putting the tops on here. Okay, once you kind of get the screws just slightly snug, but where you can still turn the scope slightly, this is the time that you want to actually get your crosshairs vertical. Now there is a special tool for doing that. I've never needed one. I just eyeball it and it's comfortable for me, and as long as it hits what I'm aiming at, that's all I care about. So it looks pretty good right there. When I'm looking through the crosshair, what I do is line the middle of that crosshair up on the middle of the bolt, and if it's pointing straight down at it, that's good enough for my work. For people who might shoot, you know, really long ranges, it might not work. For me, I'm not shooting, you know, 1,000 yards. So as long as it you know, can hit at 100, 200 yards, fairly accurate, you know, for me. And I've never had a problem putting one bullet after the other in a hole with this gun, so I'm not really concerned about it. So I'm just going to lightly tighten each of the screws up, making sure that this is even all the way across and that the gaps are the same on that side. So the gap is a little bit larger on this side, so I'll go ahead and tighten this down a little bit more over here. And like I said, I just tighten the screws little by little. All right, so we got that tightened down. We'll go ahead and do this, and then we'll go to the range and start sighting her in. Okay, so I've got it mounted, scope mounted. I've got it mounted on my Cadwell lead sled shooting bench here, and I've got a rest. I mean, I've got a target way down there about 30 yards away, and I'll throw that up on screen for you. And we're gonna start sighting this baby in now. And I didn't even bore sight it, since I'm sighting it in so close. I should be able to get on paper. And I'll start out with good old faithful Winchester 100 grain power point here that I've used for, oh my goodness, I don't know, well, 30 years that I've been using in this rifle, and this is the most accurate ammunition. I've put some other ammunition through it, but this is consistently the most accurate. And this box ammunition right here is probably 15, 20 years old. I bought a whole case of it when I first bought the rifle. When I buy ammunition, I like to buy a whole run of it and use only that out of that run. So I buy it, when I find an ammunition that likes a rifle, I just buy a bunch of it out of the same store at the same time, and then just use that ammunition. So I get essentially the same run of ammunition. But I'm only going to use it to sight in, because I'm actually running out of this ammunition after 30 years. And so I'm going to switch to a new ammunition, which has come on the market, which is also by Winchester. This is the Winchester Power Max Bonded. It's also a 100 grain, and it's almost essentially the same as the Power Point, except that it has a bonded copper jacket to the core. And I've used it in a 223, and I really like the performance of it. So I bought a whole bunch of this ammunition. It's really hard to come by, so if you ever see it, buy it, because you may never see it again. Leaving Bud's Gun Shop is a limited edition, and you have to be part of their membership to even be able to buy it. So I bought this here, and this is what I'm going to be sighting it in with. But I'll use some leftover PowerPoint just to get it on paper, so I don't waste this, because this is quite a bit more per box than the PowerPoint. So here we go. I like to load one bullet in at a time when I'm sighting the gun in. Just load it in by hand. I don't like to put it down in there. Safety's back here on the Model 110. Let me go ahead and make some adjustments with my shooting rest here. Get it sighted in, and got my shooting bench, which is also get it right on. Okay, so it's dead center. And let's go ahead and see where the first bullet hits. I'll throw the target up on screen. Okay, so we see that that last shot landed about an inch to the left, dead high center. Okay, so Winchester has a cool ballistics calculator on their website. If you'll just go there, I'll throw a link to that calculator in the description of this video, and it tells you the ballistics information about their ammunition. You just choose the type of ammo, the caliber of the rifle, and the model of the ammo that you're looking at, and it'll show you just there's some perimeters you can adjust there, like sight-in range, things like that. So I've adjusted that to 150 yard sight-in range, and it shows me a graph, and I'll throw that up on screen, and you see it about 25 yards. It's about a ½ inch low, but I'm shooting at about 30 yards. So I'm gonna go ahead and adjust it to about a ¼ inch low, dead center, and that should put me on paper at 150 yards with this gun, pretty close to bullseye. Whenever the wind calms down on a different day, I'll go ahead and test that out, but I'm just gonna adjust it to shoot about a ¼ inch low at 30 yards, and that should put me close enough to 150 yards, and when I test it, I should be there. So I need to move a little bit right and a little bit down. Okay, go ahead. Again, I'm still shooting the power points here, putting them in by hand. Whenever I'm sighting in, I put every bullet in by hand as if it was as if I was shooting a single shot. All right, so we see that you just need to come a little bit more over. And a little bit more down. Okay, so now I'm going to switch ammunition and see where we're hitting with the Power Max ammo. Okay, so it went right through the same hole as the other one, so I can't really tell where it hit. So I'm going to shoot at one of the smaller targets now. Remember, I want dead center, about a ¼ inch low. So go ahead and aim for the bottom left. Hit a little bit to the right there, but I think I pulled that shot just a smidgen. Let's go ahead and put another one in there and see where it hits. Shooting for the top right little target. Oh, almost perfect. Just a little bit low and just a little bit to the right. So I'm going to come back just a couple of clicks and shoot one more time. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Right where I want it. Dead center, just a little bit low. And that should, at 150 yards, that should put it pretty close to dead on. Because as it passes the plane of trajectory up, it goes up to about 1 inch, and then it curves back, and about 150 yards, it intersects the line of sight of the scope again. So right around 150 yards, I should be able to hit pretty close to bullseye. I might have to do some fine tuning, but I got to wait for a lot calmer day to do that. But guys, there you have it. The beautiful Savage Model 110 hardwood stock. This gun right here is a deer killer. It's dropped well over 100 deer in its life. Third scope it's ever had on it. This is one of them guns that I'm gonna pass on to my grandchildren. All original trigger, just a beautiful gun. Savage. You know, if you can't afford a Weatherby, guys, do not be afraid to go with a Savage. They make some amazing weapons at really good prices, and they're all tack drivers. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, please like, subscribe, and comment. Remember, all the tools and equipment that you've seen in this video, I always place the links underneath the video for your convenience, so you don't have to ask questions or go looking for it on your own. I'll just let you know what I'm using. If it's useful to you, use it. If it's not, doesn't matter. I put it there for your convenience. So, all right, guys, until next time, this is the Jungle Explorer signing out.